My name is Cesar Rolon Jr. I'm the co-founder of Latino Fashion Week here in the United States. We are the only event of its kind in the U.S. With a national tour in 4 other cities. And I'm also the president of UMAG Marketing Consultants and HispanicFestivals.com. Yijing Marketing Consultants actually was a brainchild of a magazine that I produced called Nuestra Imagen Hispana, our Hispanic image. And once I sold the magazine, I actually kept the name Yijing Marketing. With respect to Latino Fashion Week, it was just coincidental that I came up with Latino Fashion Week. Somebody pissed me off. I was in search of Latino designers, couldn't find any here in Chicago. And I figured out that there was zero support in the city of Chicago for Latino designers and models. You know, I'll give you an example, Kennedy King College. How many times I've reached out to their media department? Not once have they sent anyone to cover Latino Fashion Week. I'm like, how do you want these kids to get their experience? They gotta get their hands wet. Okay, same thing with the fashion schools. And that started because of the fact that when I did my casting, I had to make sure that everyone was represented, that I had African Americans in my show, period. Yeah, there was little to no support at all whatsoever. What happens is that, if you recall, years ago, the city of Chicago had what was called the dress forms of Michigan Avenue. And these are dress forms that were designed by the students from the fashion schools here in Chicago. So I purchased the mannequin, purchased my location as to where we were going to get placed. And I was told they couldn't find me a Latino student designer. And that's really where the whole brainchild of Latino Fashion Week came out. And then, of course, I discovered a phenomenal designer here from Chicago by the name of James de Colon, who now has his boutique in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And the rest is history. 11 years later, we are the biggest fashion event in the city of Chicago. We say we're by Latinos for everyone, and then we're in multiple cities. Now we're branching off into what I'm going to call the World Fashion Festival, and now the Men's Lifestyle and Men's Fashion Week. You know, they were there. They were there. Again, no one ever reached out to them. I'll give you another example. The very first year in looking for sponsors, I couldn't get anyone to sponsor Latino Fashion Week. But that year I brought in, you know, some celebrities, and Jaslyn Gonzalez had just participated in America's Next Top Model. But even with respect to the makeup line, my makeup line was Shiseido out of Japan. So, you know, I can sit there and name other brands that you would normally find that Latinas do sell, and still today, they're not even supportive. So again, as a community of color, we do spend. We have great residual income. We have beautiful faces. Our community is also curvy. We have to understand that. You know, so part of Latino Fashion Week is that we celebrate all that. We celebrate our mixed cultures, our mixed races. And how beautiful is it that I can actually include designers from some of these countries that are underrepresented here, not only in Chicago, but throughout the United States. People from Ecuador, Brazil, Cuba, they want to see their own. Challenge. I love being a challenge. Don't tell me I can't do anything. Let me prove you wrong. But at the same time, let me educate you. What gives me the inspiration for what I do literally is just everyday life. I see what's missing. I see some of the challenges that we have to meet. Chicago is a very unique town within itself. And as a Puerto Rican myself, it's very unfortunate that these general market agencies pigeonhole all of us Latinos as Mexican. And it's very unfortunate because of the fact that we have great demographics here in Chicago. And at the same time, I have issues with radio and television that don't segment into our market. So again, I meet those challenges. I also have a love for music. I had a record label. I produced house music. So I come from that spiritual background. But again, give me a challenge. I'll take it anytime. Education. Because again, sometimes in the field that I'm in, which is actually Hispanic marketing, they know nothing about the Hispanic market, period. So they don't know our traits, they don't know our influences, they don't know our spending power, they don't know the different types of languages that we have, and what they really don't know is how impactful we are in social media. Latinos over-index in social media than general market. Why? Because we no longer have to use a calling card. Now we have WhatsApp. So we're communicating with our loved ones back home on Facebook Live. So when you think of the hundreds of thousands of Latinos that are communicating on a daily basis, and if you can actually instill some kind of advertising into that, my formal and informal backgrounds, I got to tell you, it really all stemmed from my childhood. My father was a musician. We came from and we still come from a family of music appreciation. So as a child, I grew up with salsa music. I grew up, even living in Puerto Rico, watching Soul Train in Puerto Rico. So my parents actually had us in performing arts all our lives. And when I was in high school, I was already in marching band. I was in performing arts all the way across the board, which then led me to college. And in college, I went towards one degree, but wound up fulfilling something else. So in college, I actually became the first Hispanic Latino president of student activities for my college. And then wound up getting a dance scholarship with Joel Hall. So went on to fulfilling music, then opening up a record label, producing house music. I've had zero training, just aside from my college studies. But again, I'm a hood rat. I'm from the street. So basically, you learn how to survive. I look at just the 101s of business management, selling, marketing, advertising. It all intertwines. As long as you know how to speak, having a dual language, of course, is a benefit. And knowing communities. Again, I understand the thoughts and the sales of the Polish community, the Asian community, the African American community. So I take all of that into consideration and fruition in what I do. For example, there's one community that is completely untapped here that no one speaks to, the disabled. It's a big market. They exist. So I kind of put that all into one big cohesive ball and I run with it. So again, if I know that I want to reach a certain community, I have to speak their language. I have to be able to learn their traits. So mine has been all street smarts. Mine has been literally just learning from the communities. In terms of fashion, not at all. But I can walk for you. One thing that agencies here in Chicago don't do is teach runway. These models don't know how to walk, and I will get it out of them. A little bit of my background. Yes, I've been embedded in music almost all my life. But as a Puerto Rican, I was actually the first executive director of the Little Village Chamber of Commerce for 7 years, running 26th Street. And then after that, I became the first executive director of the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce for the state of Illinois, where I created the Hispanic Business Women's Conference, which I still own. That's where I got my government and my business background, learning from these small business owners. Then thereafter, I took a break and I became a grant writer for the state, where I created the state's first only all-inclusive adult care center for the elderly frail. And I did that in honor of my grandmother because I took care of my grandmother. After that, I did 10 years in radio and television. So when you take all of that background, you take all that training, it really just comes natural after that. It's just a matter of you have to learn how to be a good speaker and learn how to be a good salesperson. My overall goal for Latino Fashion Week is exactly what we've done already, and that is to create more of an awareness, to open up doors for our designers, for our models, for our stylists, for our makeup artists, and to, most of all, really challenge the big box retailers because we buy, we shop there, we want to see our own. So that's my goal, is give us the opportunity, give us that space, we'll take it. I invent myself all the time. Right now because of social media, everything changes. So I just opened up an office in Puerto Rico in December, so I'm really happy about that. I'm going to be creating lifestyle events in Puerto Rico. And we have many platforms that we're launching. So for example, we have a restaurant initiative called Admirable, where we actually we do advertising inside the restaurants, but all of our screens come with facial recognition. So I'm actually able to provide the advertiser with fresh stats and numbers as to how many people have actually seen their commercials. And now we have another platform called the Halo Cam. So the Halo Cam is a selfie platform that we developed basically for events, but starting next month, we now have what's called the Halo Vanity. And we're launching it here in Chicago. And the opportunity there is that we can actually install these Halo frames, these vanity frames in the restaurants, so then when people walk in, they can actually take their selfie and it captures their data. Everything is data capture nowadays. It's the only way you can actually communicate with your end user. I mean, that's the beauty of fashion as well. I mean, people now are obsessed with fashion and technology. We have the wristbands, we have wearable technology. I mean, right now, I'm actually helping a buddy of mine launch a underwear line that actually has a chip in the waistband that will actually control steps. What is it? Sky's the limit. I'm very goal-orientated. That's just the way I live my life. So I'm constantly, what's next? What is next for me? What is next for me, actually? Well, what's next for me basically is the MLS All-Star Game here in Chicago. And I had the pleasure of working with World Chicago, where I actually had a fellowship that shadowed me for a couple of weeks. And I'll be going to Russia in November to set up the FIFA Fan Fest for the World Cup for 2018. So a lot of really great things happening, a lot of more international events that I'm going to be producing in multiple countries. One of them now, the first one we're doing is that we're actually taking the Chicago Salsa Congress to Guadalajara next year. And then we're also taking a fashion component to Uruguay. My easiest task on a daily basis is getting up in the morning. Because of the fact that I produce so many events, I mean, my summer is filled with events. You know, my company, we produce the top Hispanic festivals here in Chicago. So it is being able to manipulate and manage my time between multiple festivals, campaigns, even the nonprofit stuff that we're doing. So prime example today, before this interview. This morning, I was already taking care of my Colombian festival, but at the same time, I was designing a campaign for human trafficking, which I'm going to do here in Chicago on July 30th for International Human Trafficking Day, okay, for my organization, Yet She Rise. And then at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was creating a proposal for a health fair and a health fiesta for a men's health fair. So I have to be able to really juggle my time, but at the same time, I dedicate bits and pieces so that at the end of the day, I know that I have accomplished what I need to do. But it's not easy, because I do work 7 days a week. And you have to have a passion for what you do. I love what I do. But for me, it's all about making a difference. If I know that I can touch your life, the person behind me, someone who wants to learn, then I've done my job. Anyone can become involved. This is an open spectrum. What we do is so that individuals that are trying to go into this business get the real training. Not the school training, which is great, that's what you go to school for, but the real training. So if you want to learn how to produce an event, if you want to shadow me as a media consultant, if you want to learn how to be a great chef and participate in some of my festivals, I'm open. Because again, that's my reward. When someone comes to me and asks me if they can shadow me and learn, I say, let's do it. I mean, that's how I got into the business, was just asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask any question. Don't be afraid to get involved. Don't be afraid to explore cultures. That's what doesn't happen here in Chicago. Explore cultures. Go to other people's communities. Find out what their need is. Find out what makes them happy. You can make a difference. My most fulfilling has not happened yet, because there's just so much more that I have not learned yet. What has been fulfilling recently was that I was given the opportunity to actually do a campaign against human trafficking, and we did it 2 weeks ago in New York City at the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. Not only did we get national media attention, I got attention from legislators, congressmen. Just found out there's 16 girls in the Bronx that are missing. As I'm doing my research, I find out that Latinos are the highest in the spectrum when it comes to human trafficking. But even more upsetting is that boys are more valuable than girls. So we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our communities to really, really, truly talk to our kids, educate our kids. And it's unfortunate because this is happening in other countries where they don't have, the substantial education. They don't have the workforce. Sometimes these young girls are doing it to help their family members out. But at the end of it, it's a crisis. It is a crisis, and it's educated me. Also, one of my biggest passions is being able to assist my community in terms of health awareness. I'm very fortunate. I'm the chairman of a board of a national organization called De la Mujer Latina, where we provide women of color with services they cannot afford. So I go out there and I get the funding for those vouchers for their mammograms, their pap smears. And what we're doing now is that we're creating a program for teen promotoras. So what we do is that with the actual organization and through different affiliations like Northwestern University, Hispanic Nurses Associations, we actually provide services, vouchers for their mammograms, their pap smears, literally any kind of exams that they rightfully cannot afford. But at the same time, especially with the Latino community, what we're doing is that we're actually creating this teen brand ambassador program where we're actually educating young teenagers so that they can go home and talk to their parents. So that they could talk to mom, they could talk to dad and say, hey dad, when's the last time you got your prostate checked? Okay? At the same time, as you know, as a community, we're high in diabetes. So again, it's also educating them on how to eat the same food staple, but healthier. So sometimes it's got to come from the kid. And it's like it's that reversed, that reverse marketing, that reverse information. Hey, mom, you shouldn't be frying that. Maybe you should bake it. So we go through the kids and they funnel the information down. The most challenging aspect of being an entrepreneur here in Chicago for me really has been, again, the lack of education, the lack of knowing who we are, the cohesiveness, the lack of support. And I keep throwing the finger at media, especially here in Chicago. So the lack of support. And as I mentioned, I will continue to throw and point daggers at media here in Chicago because of the fact that they talk to us separately and not as a whole community. So I also say, I say shame on you. I say shame on the urban stations here that think that they're only a black station when everyone listens, to urban music in any form or fashion. And I don't have a problem talking about that at all whatsoever, because if I don't do it, nobody else will. But at the same time, understand us, understand our buying power, understand our education. Look, we're all here on borrowed time. Everyone has a purpose. Every single person has a purpose, whether it's me, you behind that chair, or the person who's actually videotaping this. We each have a purpose. Keep it real. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself and learn. I mean, literally just learn. But that's about as best as I could say is, and keep a strong base within yourself and learn how to be a little bit more spiritual as well. Because then we want everything so fast. We want everything too fast, and we want it at the blink of an eye. And sometimes you have to look a little deeper to really, really understand even who you are and what's your purpose. And if you don't know, ask. Ask questions. The legacy that I want to be able to leave behind is that I made a difference, that I was able to touch someone's heart, that I opened up a door for someone, that I helped save someone's life, that I was able to spread love, that I was able to give you a hug. You can find me at imagenmarketing.com. That's IMAGEN consultants.com. You can find me on Facebook under Cesar Rolon, Twitter at LatinoFashionWK.com, and also on Instagram. But again, feel free to shoot me an email at crolon@imagenconsultants.com.